Nobody else has the power to stop your future, your present. No one has the power to have your past stop you from what you're doing. Who can be your greatest friend, your closest friend, and your worst enemy at the same time? The answer is simple, it's you. Because even more often than not, we fight ourselves inside of ourselves rather than the outside circumstances. Now, let's get back to the next episode. Yo, what is good, everybody, man? Welcome back to a Kids Room podcast episode brought to you by yours truly, your host, Ian Colbert, man. Hey, I was I still listen to music, you know what I'm saying? Not of just gospel or anything like that. So people don't get me confused with just being completely, totally saved and all these things, despite of what I teach and what I talk about. I was listening to Rod Wave, man. It was he said a certain line in there and it spoke to me, right? It's funny to say that uh, because I've listened to that same song for many years, right? I'm not even gonna talk about the song, really what he said in it, but it reminded me that who you look at yourself in the mirror, right, can be your best friend or your worst enemy. We are more often than not our own greatest critics, right? We always doubt ourselves, right? You have disbeliefs. When you fail, you call yourself a failure. When you don't have a good relationship, you feel like all your relationships are going to be bad. Someone says something about you and you begin to believe it. And uh, it's very important to realize that you are the difference maker between who you can be and who you can't be. If you think that you can, you can. If you think that you can't, that is also true, right? If you were always brought up to believe that you were great, you could do anything you want and things like that, and then you let somebody on the outside stop you from that, someone from the outside or a circumstance that happened in life, you allowed that to now hinder your future. You allow that to now hinder your training and do things like that because of what something that is simply said to yourself. You telling yourself that you can't do it will simply put you in a mood, will put you in emotions to feel like you cannot do it, right? If you feel like you can do something, you want to motivate yourself despite the pain, despite the struggles, despite the fight that you have to go through, then you will continue to find reasons to do something, right? You will continue to find reasons to try and try again. But we as people tend to fall off of uh, the pedestal that we are put on, right, from what God tells us that we are, right? God tells us that we are his kin, we are royalty, right? We're gonna get an inheritance. We're gonna be great in so many ways if we trust in him, if we use the gift, if we go with purpose, right? I talk about that so much. But what happens whenever you're not doing that? Because God also talks to us about having trials, having tribulations, having challenges, and consistently knowing that the enemy is going to be prowling around looking for someone to devour. And if you are caught lacking, if you are caught off guard, if you are not prepared and continue to guard your heart and guard your mind and guard your spirit and guard those thoughts, you will slip into that darkness. You will slip into that abyss. You will slip into that depression because you know what I'm saying? It becomes effortless once you start to keep your emotions in check. It begins to be tiring because the enemy wants you to be tired, right? Um, Being the friend on one hand, right? What is that? That's self discipline. That's faith. That's having a vision to pull you forward, right? Celebrating small wins to build momentum. Speaking life over yourself, affirmations, scripture, having that gratitude. But on the other side, it's the enemy. It's overthinking opportunities until you miss them, right? Fear disguised as logic. That's what if I'm not ready? What if I fail? Like all these what ifs, but never trying, never attempting, never doing. You know what I'm saying? Comfort zones that keep you small, right? That you have a great opportunity, but because you've never done it before, because you've never experienced it before, now you're nervous, now you're scared to do it. That's normal, right? You have to be able to normalize these feelings of negativity and making them positive, making them making them fuel, right? Making them motivate you to keep pushing you forward, right? Self-discipline, faith, having a vision to pull you forward, right? Not having a vision large enough to where you don't even know how you're gonna get to that position, how you're gonna get to that end goal and things like that. Because goals are only the vehicle to get you to the vision. You feel me? So once again, goals are just the vehicle to get you to the vision. The vision is the grand destination, the grand scheme of things, right? What God shows us in a dream, in a thought, or whatever the case may be, and the vision and the goals is what drives you there. Okay. Um, in Romans chapter 7, verse 15, it goes on to say what Paul talks about is for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate. So you want to be better, but you want to eat better, but then people are always asking you to eat out. Or now all of a sudden you're getting the influx of funds, and now that you get a chance to eat out more, right? Just because you get more money, I'll say this, just because you get more money does not mean that you're going to be better as a person. It's just going to give you more opportunity and more time to do the things that you want to do, right? So if you don't drink that much, but then you start getting more money, you might drink more. You might not. I'm just saying though, be careful on the things that you ask for, and the way you steward things is very important. If you smoke a little bit now, whenever you get more money, you're gonna have way more time and opportunity to smoke more and do things like that. But if you uh, volunteer more, you make more money, you can volunteer even more and things like that. Or if you want to give more time to your family and do things like that, you don't have that, you make more time and make more money, you have more time to do those things and things like that, right? So that's what Paul goes to talk about. But also in Proverbs chapter 23 verses 7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Same thing as saying, if you think you are, you are. If you think you're not, you're not. It's the same thing. So God is saying, right, the way that a man thinks, a person thinks, right, that's who you're gonna be. So if you have positive things and you want to focus on God, that's what you're gonna do. If you have negative things, you want to focus on what the enemy is doing, other circumstances, and what life is doing to you, just like what life is doing to everybody else in different forms, in different ways, right? Everyone got to start from somewhere. That's who you're gonna be. That's what you're gonna focus on, right? And in Romans 8:28, one of my favorite verses is God works through it all, but you must. Oh wait, no. Let me do a different version of that actually. So I don't like that version. Okay, so this is the New King James version, and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. So the way you walk, talk, think, so you will be. So God has already warned us. He has already told us, uh, if you think that you're not good enough, if you think you're not worth the kingdom, if you think you're not worth the blessings, then you won't be, and you will drive yourself out of a kingdom. You will drive yourself out of protection from Christ because of the way that you think. So, and that will drive you to emotions. That'll drive you to making mistakes and doing things and acting irrational when you shouldn't need to, when you shouldn't have to, right? So the challenge is, take a thought and flip it to being positive. So if you have a negative thought in the morning, I don't feel like getting up in the morning. But then you gotta flip it to, I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work, right? I get to see the people that sometimes don't bother me and things like that. But today might be different. You know what I'm saying? So you get to wake up. You get to have health. You get to have two arms, two legs. Even if you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like you still have the opportunity to wake up and be alive, man. So, and not everyone is doing that. And when you really think about it, you only get one life. You only get one time to really move about and to do these things in life. So you don't want to miss it. You don't want to worry yourself into an early grave. You don't want to stress yourself out into an early grave. You know what I'm saying? Following God's purpose, following God's plan adds years onto your life, and it says that into the word as well. So add years onto your life by not worrying about not making yourself the enemy of yourself, but looking in the mirror and realizing that you are a friend, that you are a amigo, compadre, that you are gonna count yourself in whenever everyone else is counting you out. But that's all I got for y'all today, man. I appreciate y'all for tapping in with me on this one, bro. Uh, Remember, whenever you think in one way, change it and flip it into another way and see how that works. Do it for a week, do it for 2, do it for 3. And as it becomes less effortless, you'll become to see that when people say, why should you? You'll begin to ask yourself, why not? Bless y'all, man. I hope y'all feeling loved and blessed as always. Continue to motivate yourself. Continue to be in the Word. Continue to pray. And I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.